back to the Football Tribe BG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Tuesday morning, the 31st of March 2026, which is the last day of the month of March. So I say goodbye, March. You've been kind to us, so thank you. We can only hope that April be much better than March has been. So we are back yet again this morning. It's 54 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. We're late because of first of all, there's just too much to do this morning. So I need literally scrapping around. Despite going to bed very late on last night, I was trying to scrap myself into getting ready for this broadcast. And there's news that came in. And you know, when news that comes in before I start the broadcast, I'm better off coming a bit late and I research that news as opposed to coming on here and I sort of mumbo jumbo about it and things like that. So I had to do a bit of, some bit of research before I came on here. So, which is usually what we call prep work. So sometimes that prep work takes a little longer than you had anticipated, but you have to do it because it's for the good of the channel. It's for the good of our viewers. It's the good of our regulars, semi-regular, and non-regular suspects that we get things right, as opposed to giving them half-baked reporting. But nonetheless, we are back this morning. We'll be talking about Ghana, the Black Stars, who have part ways with their head coach, Otto Addo. Yes, and then we'll talk about the World Cup playoffs. We'll talk about Arsenal's injuries because now we have an update on the timelines through or during which or within which Arsenal fans should be expecting some of those players that all returned from international duty prematurely to be returning to action. So we'll be talking about that. And then we'll also be talking about Andre Onana. Looks like he wants a Manchester United return. He is desperate to, sort of win back the hearts of Manchester United fans and things like that. So we'll talk about that as well in this podcast. Then also, we'll talk about the daylight offside rule that will be going into testing in the Canadian Premier League in a bit. So keep it locked on the channel and you will get all those updates. Come on. Looks like I've exceeded the number of characters. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 57 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. I kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. It's a pleasure to have you around. All those that have subscribed recently, I extend my sincere appreciation for that kind gesture. Do not just stop at subscribing. Also watch the content. Go under the video section and watch all that content under the short section and all our live broadcasts. Remember, we'll come live at least twice every single day, apart from Sunday, where we do not have a Sunday morning broadcast. Maybe, God willing, in the future we'll fix that with perhaps a Sunday mid-morning broadcast or afternoon broadcast. We'll see. Come on. Okay, let's see if this works. All right. So yeah, we'll be talking about all those topics in as far as this morning is concerned. The question is, where do we start the conversation from? Do we start it with the Ghana international team? Do we start it with the World Cup playoffs? I think let's start with let the World Cup playoffs come later on. Okay, let's begin with Andre Onana. As of this morning, we are learning that Andre Onana, in a report filed by The Athletic, it does reveal that he is intent on returning to Manchester United after his loan spell at Trabzonspor over there in the Turkish league to come and sort of continue his ways with Manchester United. He wants to fight for that number one spot that is currently being held by Seny Lomans. That's the 23-year-old Belgian goalkeeper who Manchester United acquired from Royal Antwerp for, I think, about what was it, 18 point something million euros? Sorry, pounds during the course of the summer. So that is what is happening. Yona, hi, Yona. Good morning. Good to have you on the broadcast. It's a pleasure to have you around. So that is that with Andre Onana. Of course, he sort of turned out to be, I don't want to say controversial goalkeeper, but he did divide a lot of opinions amongst the Manchester United fan base, given how he did apply himself a majority of the times. Sometimes those that were against him thought he cost the team on numerous occasions, or on more occasions than he served the team, while others thought the entire team was being poor, so he was bound to sort of be just one of the many that were poor. So it's not like he was the bad apple in the group. It's just that all the group were sort of like bad apples. So, but anyways, I remember, I think his last game in Manchester United colours was that game against Grimsby Town. And because the season had started with Altay Baindia in Manchester United goal, he did not do himself any favours in that game because, let's be honest, he sort of fumbled it. If it was an opportunity that was handed to him to sort of see whether he could renew or sort of revive his reputation amongst the fan base, it did not look pretty that night in that 3-3 draw, I think, that went on to proceed to penalties before Manchester United got knocked out at the third round of the EFL Cup. So that is what did transpire. So that's Andre Onana, who Manchester United signed quite expensively. I think they spent on him about 50 million euros to acquire him from Inter Milan in the summer of 2023. Yes, that was after Inter Milan had lost to Manchester City in the finals of the UEFA Champions League. Rodri scoring that goal, Amadou Onana being voted the goalkeeper of the year that campaign. Now, and this is what I said at the time, before prior to his exit. I kept saying Andre Onana was not the first player that Manchester United had signed and turned out to be bad. And to further drive that point home, it was their former player in Michael Owen who said Manchester United sign good players and make them bad. And I couldn't agree more on that, because they signed Alejandro Garnacho 2021 from Borussia Dortmund. He was, a star at the time. He was a brilliant player. Look how it turned out. Look at players like Alexis Sanchez when they walked in. Look at Paul Pogba. He never lived to the kind of expectations that he moved back to United with from Juventus. Look at Andre Onana being the other player. Look at Harry Maguire when he joins in from Leicester City. Casemiro's form was not the Casemiro of Real Madrid. Not that we expected him to be that good, maybe, but not that poor the way he looked. Look at Manuel Ugarte currently. Look at Rasmus Højlund. Look at Joshua Zirkzee. That kind of thing. So look at Mason Mount. Mason Mount, maybe you could excuse them because it's largely been his injuries that have undone him. But the point I'm trying to make is that you see that there's a sort of a pattern within the Manchester United realms that players walk in there and they have been their best versions prior to joining Manchester United, and then they sort of fizzle down in a way. So I really, really can't blame it on Andre Onana for sort of being or for his underperformance entirely. Yes, he is to blame for a lot of mistakes that were a result of his own making, but you have to say that there was some underlying factors within that Manchester United, side that needed to be investigated, or that cannot be simply blamed on Andre Onana, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, moving on from Andre Onana, that's the news regarding Andre Onana. Now, you remember the daylight offside rule that was proposed by the FIFA head of global football. That's the former Arsenal manager in Arsene Charles Wenger. Well, that rule was sort of passed by IFAB to go into testing, not passed to be implemented in the global game, but to start going through different testing phases, and they are going to start testing it with the Canadian Premier League when it returns in April. Speaking of the Canadian Premier League, I do not know. Does it return in April and then take a break in the summer during the World Cup and resume after that? I think that most definitely will have to be the case, because Canada is one of the host nations of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the kind of World Cup that I'm still down about. The circumstances are surrounding it thus far are not looking good. The optics are not looking good, but we can only hope for the best. So the Canadian Premier League will be returning to action on April the 4th. And on April the 4th, that's when it will go into testing. This new rule. So FIFA's chief of global football development, that is Arsene Charles Wenger, said this is an important pilot. By testing the new interpretation in a professional competition, we can better understand its impact, including in terms of improving clarity and the flow of the game and promoting attacking play. Now, before I complete his statement, or what he had to add on this, is that, first of all, the rule seems to favor attackers. And I think it's to encourage more attacking football, more attacking play, because whereas the existing rule or offside rule is good, I, for one, do also feel that it's a bit inefficient or bad in a way. Okay, inefficient is the right word perhaps to use. First of all, we've all seen players be ruled out just because their finger is deemed to have been in an offside position, maybe their hind heel, the tip of their boot, their shoelace, the tip of their shoulder, and all those kinds of things. You know, you remember when Crystal Palace were beating up against Tottenham Hotspurs, Ismail Sarr's nose was literally judged to be in an offside position. His face. I mean, and for me, it has always been an issue that we do not need to judge offside in that sort of manner. No, we do not. Then also, I thought to myself that it must be clear and obvious. You remember in the introduction, VAR, which sort of amplified or magnified the inefficiencies of the existing offside rule. I know it's as simple as if you're offside, you're offside. You can. There's not anything like you half offside, half not. You know, but you judge a player for being in an offside position just because their hand is in an offside position. But when he scores with that hand, that goal is not going to count. Why is that the case? You know. So you remember Alejandro Garnacho's goal against Arsenal that was cancelled simply because Gabriel Magalhaes ducks slightly inwards a bit. And Garnacho's goal was cancelled. You know? So those kinds of things are what sort of, for me, feels a bit in support of this rule. However, perhaps not entirely, not 100%. And the reason as why I say that, please indulge me or hear me out on this one. With the daylight rule, which is seeking to support all these attackers, is that you will be judged to be offside if you are beyond the last defender. Not these things of you half in, half out. Nah. If you're entirely beyond the last defender, that's when you'll be judged to be offside. It's the kind of rule that will favor attackers. Now, what does that mean for defenders? It could mean that teams sit back quite deeply in, because the margin of error is too small. A guy will be half their body ahead of you. And if, let's say, you're a defender like Virgil van Dijk and you have to chase down Gabriel Martinelli, it's not going to be a fair run if they are a step ahead of you in terms of one leg being ahead of you. So that's sort of the thing about it. So according to Arsene Wenger, he says, we look forward to analyzing the results of the trial phase. We thank the Canadian Premier League and the Canadian Soccer Association for their willingness to support FIFA with this pilot and for providing their competition. Like I've told you, an attacking player will be considered. Will be considered if at least one part of their body that can legitimately be used to score in line with or behind the second to last defender. So a player will only be ruled offside if there is a gap or daylight between themselves and the defender. So in other words, if this is your line of defense, as you're the defender, the striker needs to be here. So you can see that there's daylight space, daylight room in between the two. But if you're this, if the picture is like this is with this being the defender and this is the striker, you can see this is sort of split down the middle. Half of the body of the striker, we imagine, is on the offensive side and the other in the defensive side or the negative side, then that is not ruled an offside. And when you sort of look at it literally in that sense, it does make sense, or at least it promises to be a very good rule. But it's not as simple as that. It's not as simple as that. So anyways, it will be tried out, it will be tested, and we'll get to see what the results will be, whether IFAB will be then able to take it on for the rest of modern football or global football. But for now, it's just in the testing phase to see how things will look like. In effect, attackers must be fully beyond the second last defender. Beyond the second last defending player, lasting defending player to be penalized. FIFA add by introducing clear visual threshold. The trial is aimed at restoring a greater attacking advantage and boosting the flow of matches. So that is there. You have it. Good morning, Raymond Kangumba says hi. Crystal Palace and Newcastle, Selhurst Park, Glasner and Eddie Howe, which will be South. So are you of the view that Crystal Palace take on Eddie Howe and then you swap him out for Oliver Glasner? Is that your suggestion, if I'm getting you right? Anyways, let's move on from the daylight offside rule. So, but that is what is happening with that. But like I said, although this one is slightly, I don't know, not confusing, but I don't know, misleading. So, but anyway, an attacking player will be considered onside if at least one part of their body that can legitimately be used to score, and I think that's the key word, can legitimately be used to score. In other words, it cannot be the arms in this particular case, used to be scored in line with or behind the second to last defender. So we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, I think it's the testing period that will sort of give us the verdict that we need maybe it gets modified a bit, because the reason as why these tests are done, or trials are done for new rules, is to sort of arrive to the best possible solution when it comes to the rules. Sometimes rules are brought and then testing proves certain things or errors, and then FIFA sort of refines them a bit, and then before they bring it on, things like that. So, anyways, allow me move on to the news regarding the Black Stars head coach, uh, Otto Addo. That one was sacked yesterday with only 72 days approximately left to the start of the World Cup in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. So Addo was sacked following two friendly match defeats against Austria, in which Ghana lost by 5 goals to 1. And then yesterday they lost to Germany by 2 goals to 1 in Stuttgart. I think Fatau was the goal scorer for Ghana, while for Germany, it was a penalty by Kai Havertz, and then the other goal was Yundav, something like that. Yundav or Wundav was the goal scorer in that one. So they part ways with him following a meeting with the head coach, the Ministry of Sports representatives from Ghana, and the Ghanaian Football Federation. So they did decide that it's time to part ways with the 50-year-old gaffer. Now, of course, Ghana, in preparation for the World Cup, will have two more friendly games to play. They will come against Mexico and Wales before the start of the World Cup. So do expect that one to happen very, very, soon. But yeah, this Otto Addo, well, this was being his second stint with the Black Stars because he took on the reins in March, I think, March 2024, taking over from Milovan Rejevac. Yes, Milovan Rejevac. Yes, he is the one he was taking over. So his first stint had been back in February 2022. He did guide Ghana through the final playoff of the World Cup qualifiers, in which they knocked out Nigeria to qualify for the FIFA World Cup. The first game in Kumasi ended in a goalless draw, while the reverse fixture ended in a 1-1 draw. I think it was in Abuja, Nigeria. So, and that's how he guided the Black Stars to the World Cup in Qatar 2022. While at that World Cup, they were in Group H with Portugal, Uruguay, and South Korea. They lost to Uruguay by 2 goals to 0. They lost to Portugal by 3 goals to 2. And then they beat up against South Korea by 3 goals to 2. Nonetheless, they still finished bottom of that group because I think Portugal led the group. Uruguay and South Korea were tied on 4 points. So they exited the World Cup, and that's when he sort of stepped down from being in charge of the Black Stars. So that was for his first stint, because remember, he had been named as an interim, and once he knocked out Nigeria to guide the Black Stars to qualify for the World Cup, they let him continue with the team until that point. So that's what happened. Now, then fast forward March 2024, he's handed the job back again, and he guided Ghana through the qualifiers of the World Cup, in which they were in Group I. They managed to win 8 out of the 10 games. They lost only 1 and drew 1. So it was quite an impressive display for the 50-year-old gaffer. So that's the man that we are talking about in Otto Addo, that has just been sacked by the Ghanaian Football Federation in terms of the footballing update ahead of the World Cup. So we know how crucial these managerial changes are, especially ahead of such a very, very crucial tournament. They'll have players like Muhammad Kudus, although for the second part of the season, he's largely been out through injury with Tottenham Hotspurs. They'll have players like Thomas Partey. He's not had a brilliant season with Villarreal. Of course, he had his those court cases or on rape and sexual assault allegations within the UK. That's for the ex-Arsenal central midfielder. Then in the other edition, you had players like Salisu, you had players like Jordan Ayew, Andre Ayew. Yeah, those are some of the players he did have. But so he looks like Ghana will now have to do it without him. So that is what is happening. We can only wait to hear who they will be replacing him with in as far as this edition of the World Cup will go there. Okay, moving on. So, sorry, before we move on, in next year's World Cup, Ghana are in the same group, which is, I think, is it Group L? Yes, they're in Group L with England and Panama, as well as the 2018 losing finals of Croatia. So that's the group in which Ghana are going to be in at the World Cup 2026. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to or march on to Arsenal because we have some updates there regarding Arsenal. Now we know that Arsenal have a whole host of injuries. Some are precautional sort of injuries where a player has something and you decide to rest them as opposed to risking them. And yeah, basically that is what is happening. So because it's a very, very long list, including Martin Zubimendi, Martin Odegaard, Ebelechi Eze, Yuan Timber, Pierre Hinkapi, Noni Madueke, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Max Dorman. Talk about it all. So, but according to the hand of Arsenal, we do have some sort of updates in regards to what is seeping through the cracks for expected timelines for their return. Starting with the captain, Martin Odegaard. He's really, really pushing back for a return ahead of the Southampton game that will be the quarterfinals of the FA Cup away to St. Mary's Stadium. But Arteta will have the final call, according to reports, on whether he gets to feature in that one or he doesn't. Then, but given how long he's been out for, I think if he has been training, I think he may be given, maybe not the nod to start, but maybe to have at least 20, 30 minutes in that game, because then the subsequent game against Sporting CP is very, very crucial, especially bearing in mind that they are going to be without Mikel Merino and Ebelechi Eze. So the number 2 is Yuan Timber. Yes, the Dutch right back is also aiming to be back for the Southampton game, but Arteta will confirm that or give an update on that. I think that press conference should be coming either on Thursday or Friday this week. Then Declan Rice, this one was sent home by the England medical team. So not that it's a big shock, but he was carrying a knock from even before the Manchester City game in the Carabao Cup final. And this is what I was saying about these players. Sometimes they play through injury and they get on with it. They play through injury. We won't just know about it. They'll play on painkillers. So he was already carrying a knock. So after being assessed by the England medical team, they decided it's not worth the risk. We do not need to risk these players, especially when we know we are playing friendlies, when these players literally are guaranteed a starting spot in the England national team. So they decided to send him back home to London Colony. Now, same thing applies sort of to Bukayo Saka, but his has been defined as red zone fatigue. Now, I need to sort of acquaint myself with what red zone fatigue means. But based on direct interpretation, I'd want to imagine that if fatigue has levels, then possibly he is in that third level red zone, the danger zone of fatigue. So that's the essence. So the rest has come to In other words, it's defined that his rest has come at the perfect time, but he was sent home on the advice of the England medical staff, who did not want to sort of also um, push him or try and play him with all that fatigue. Then Andoni Madueke, this one many had feared for the worst, but it is not as bad as it seemed. Despite him walking away from Wembley with a brace on his knee, a preliminary assessments show that it is a minor injury and he could be in contention to return midweek for the first leg against Sporting CP, or at the very latest the game against FC Bournemouth the subsequent weekend after they play the first leg of the UEFA Champions League quarterfinals in Lisbon, Portugal. Then the other player is Martin Zubimendi. Yes, Martin Zubimendi. We know this one had had discomfort in the right knee, and equally upon assessment by the Spain national team medics, they decided he be sent home for a recovery. In other words, let them not risk him and rest him. You see, when people are talking about some of these things, some people want to paint it as though it's all to benefit Arsenal. Why can't you think that it is also to benefit these respective national teams? Take the example of Martin Zubimendi. You have this very, very reliable player who has a knee discomfort. Would you rather risk him in a friendly that he then suffers a long-term injury that definitely puts him out of the World Cup? It may not be very long as in 1 year or 6 months injury. It only needs to be as a little as 2 to 3 months. And suddenly he's out of the squad for the World Cup, because then by the time perhaps he returns, he's not fully fit enough to feature. So you then leave yourself with very, very few options. So if you're playing these international friendlies, you're asking to yourself, why risk it anyway when the guy is already having discomfort? So he's been sent home to sort of rest it out and recover fully. Then the other player is Pierre Hincapié. Now, this one, it's a minor knock. The player is taking the precaution to rest and recover on the advice of the Ecuador national team medics. Now, again, now you can see that majority of these are not recalls. You know, these national team medics that have said, okay, this one has an issue here, this one has a knock there. They can play through it or with it, but why risk it when the clubs that give us these players, we can sort of minimize their risk as well as while we minimize our own risk of not putting the player at the risk of, excuse me, at the risk of getting a very, very long-term injury. So there's that, you know. So Pierre Hincapié, it's a minor knock. So we'll have to wait and see. And not a specific timeline has been given, but there's hope that it is less worse. Okay, that it's not as worse as first feared. And then the other player is Ebelechi Eze. This one is still undergoing rehabilitation. However, recent reports have suggested that he could return a little earlier than faster anticipated. Therefore, with the current reports show that he could sort of sooner or later return to the grass. So instead of missing, let's say, the game against Southampton, Southampton, Sporting, FC Bournemouth, Sporting, and Manchester City, he could meet Southampton, Sporting CP, and then return for the game against Bournemouth or the game at home against Sporting Lisbon. So that is the new anticipation, but there is some optimism that he could return much, much earlier or a little earlier than the originally anticipated time. And then lastly is Max Dorman. Yes, I know he's not been mentioned in anywhere on that list of players that are injured, but he was sent home by his PE teacher, by his PE lesson teacher, that's Steve. So the again, we just have to wait and see. So I think that touches almost all the Arsenal players that are injured. If there's any that we've left out, you feel free to let me know down in the comment section. But we do know for a fact that Arsenal will have to deal with it regardless. They have to deal with it. Leandro Trossard, we are yet to get an update on him. Same applies for William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes. But remember, these ones opted out before even going to their national teams specifically. Okay, then I think that wraps it about the update on Arsenal and those injuries. Unless there's a key question that you guys would want to put to me, that's what's up in regards to those Arsenal injuries. For as of this moment, we know that there's been literally an exodus of Arsenal players from their respective national teams, even though they still have some out there. The likes of Christian Mosquera with the Spanish national team, the likes of Victor Gyökeres with the Swedish national team, David Raya with Spain, Riccardo Carafiori with Italy. Who else? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to think. Gabriel Martinelli with the Brazil national team. So all that is still happening. Ben White with the England national team. It's quite still a good number of them. So Ben White, Gabriel Martinelli, Riccardo Carafiori, David Raya, Christian Mosquera, Victor Gyökeres. That's as many as 6 players. I'm trying to think. Christian Nørgaard, yes, with the Danish national team. That's 7. Who else? Kai Havertz with the German national team. So as many as 8 players are still out there featuring for their respective countries. Speaking of which, okay, let's move on to now national team duty, because the World Cup final playoffs are set for today with some really, really interesting fixtures. I'm sure Italy would want to avoid the embarrassment of a 3rd straight World Cup without qualifying, having missed out on the previous 2. That's in 2018 and in 2022, because on both occasions they got beat by Sweden to miss out on the 2018 World Cup. Then they got beat by North Macedonia to miss out on the 22 World Cup. I think that's either that's the order or the reverse, but those are the opponents they lost to. Anyways, today at 9:45 p.m., Bosnia and Herzegovina will be taking on Italy. Then Czechia or Czech Republic will take on Denmark. Kosovo will take on Turkey, and then Sweden will take on Poland. Now, if I'm being honest with you, I do not know which fixture I want to watch. I have interest in watching Denmark because of Christian Nørgaard. I'd want to watch Italy because of Italy being Italy, one of the most successful teams in World Cup history, but also because they have Riccardo Carafiori. I want to see players like Manuel Locatelli, Moises Kean, how they sort of fare around, and things like that. Nico Barella, Alessandro Bastoni, those kinds of players. Then with Turkey, I would want to see Adagula. Is he able to cut it? There's a player whose name eludes me, plays for Galatasaray. It's Turkish, that I would want to watch play. Then Sweden versus Poland. With Sweden, I mean, they have their Anthony Elanga. They do have their, what's his name? Victor Gyökeres. So the other day he scored a hat-trick against Ukraine. You know, he could fire his country into the World Cup. He could fire his country into the World Cup, really. So yeah, those are the games that are coming up. I've given you my views about Gennaro Gattuso. For me, I remain very skeptical about his abilities. But yeah, expect to see for Italy's part players like Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal, Riccardo Carafiori, Alessandro Bastoni, Gianluca Mancini, Matteo Politano, Nico Barella, Manuel Locatelli, Sandro Tonali squad in the previous 2-0 victory against Ireland, Northern Ireland. Federico Di Marco was in there, Matteo Retegui, as well as Moises Kean. Moises Kean was the other goal scorer on the night as they won that one by 2-0. So I thought in that game they played okay. Although playing okay may not be good enough, especially when you're in a playoff final, that whoever wins will be going to the World Cup. So we're going to look at the World Cup groups that are not filled as well. So basically, yeah, those are the teams. Okay, World Cup for the World Cup. I think there's supposed to be a game between Jamaica and DRC Congo from Africa to determine who qualifies for the World Cup. I don't know when that is, but I do sense it should be coming soon rather than later. That's what I would want to assume. Oh, yes. So the World Cup playoffs tomorrow. DRC Congo will take on Jamaica. That will come at midnight. Then Iraq will take on Bolivia. So to determine those that come through. I think I'll be looking to watch that DRC Congo match, even though it starts very late on. Then USA versus Portugal. This is an international friendly tomorrow. USA versus Portugal, I think will be a good game. Argentina will play Zambia, while Brazil will take on Croatia. Unfortunately, those games come at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Oh, sorry. I'm not sure whether it's going to be 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, those games will be coming your way as well. Belgium play Mexico tomorrow, Canada against Tunisia. Yeah, all that is to come your way. But so here are the group stages. Sorry. I'm trying to look at oh, come on. I'm trying to fetch my page. Yes, at last. Here is. So we know that some gaps are yet to be filled. For example, Group A is missing the fourth member. It already has Mexico, South Africa, and South Korea. Group B is missing a member. It has Canada, who is one of the hosts with many Mexico and USA. So Group B has Canada, Qatar, and Switzerland. It's missing a member. Group C is complete. It has Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Then Group D has USA, Paraguay, Austria, sorry, not Austria, Australia. So USA, Paraguay, Australia. So they're missing a fourth member. Then Group E has German, Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. So that is complete. Group F is Netherlands, Japan, and Tunisia. So it is missing a member. Group G has Belgium, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Now, with Iran threatening that they will not take part of the World Cup, we'll have to wait and see if they can find a replacement for Iran. We'll have to wait and see. Or if Iran, I've been led to believe that Iran had requested for their games to be played in Canada. I don't know whether FIFA can grant that wish because, I mean, they're in the same group. But yeah, I think it is possible. It is possible if FIFA is willing to do it. They can make it happen. Then Group H has Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. Difficult group there. Then Group I has France, Senegal, Norway, and a missing member, while Group J has Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. And then Group K has Portugal, Uzbekistan, Colombia, and one missing member. Remember, there are, I think, 6 slots that are waiting to be filled, 4 from UEFA, and then 2 from the other continents. Then Group L has England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. So basically, excuse me. Oh, wow. Basically, that is what is happening on that front. Or with that. So yeah, those are the respective group stages of the World Cup. Like I said, the playoffs are ongoing. You'll get 2 teams from the other playoffs. While here, from UEFA or Europe, you'll get 4 teams. So to fill the other 6 gaps that are still remaining. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on with the other news and reports thus far this week. So the Africa Cup of Nations 2027 is it's going to be, I don't know, AFCON 2027 feels like time is running out for the 3 host nations of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And when I say I feel it is running out, it's because facility-wise, they still have so many things lacking in terms of infrastructure. And I don't know, if I was Pomoja, if let's say by the end of the year, I do not have a full picture of my readiness with only a couple of months left to go, I'd rather go and say, you know what, give this thing to South Africa or to Algeria and give us the 2028 edition. And we go from there. And we go from there. Otherwise, this idea that none of the facilities meets the standards and they've given things to correct, as beautiful as that sounds for me, it sounds like post-mortem. And when I say post-mortem, is because I want to ask myself, where are these guys while the preparation of these grounds is ongoing? Did they, based on their guidelines or standards, give guide to all these countries so that they tell their contractors that, look here, while you do ABCD, remember we are obligated to do blah, 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 you know? So for as long as, because it's like shooting and then aiming later, you know? You have Uganda, you have Kenya and Tanzania all building new stadiums. And then you come last minute and be like, that's not how it's done. That is not good enough. That is not big enough. That media tribunal is not good enough. No, they were not thinking about you. They are thinking about themselves and what they are comfortable with or what they are accustomed to. It's not, obviously, it's not what is correct for the tournament, but they could only play the hand they were dealt with. I feel like CAF should be stepping in more, right on the onset to say, okay, you're going to sacrifice this for that. When you look at the Hoima City Stadium, apparently, among a few rooms where it's good, you look at the media tribunal, based on the footage I've seen, I have not been to the stadium myself, but based on the footage that I've seen, the media tribunal looks small, you know? It looks really, really small. A 12-seater, now you cannot be hosting a continental tournament and you have 12 seats for journalists. There's going to be hundreds more than that. I mean, locally, when you go to our local media stations, let's say New Vision sends, even if each house is sending one, New Vision sends one, Monitor sends one, NTV one, that's Nation Media Group. Of course, they have KFM, Dembe FM, and the other newspapers. But let's assume the two will do the job. How about all these other stations? MBS, Nile Post, what not, you know? How about all that? Okay, Raymond says Crystal Palace versus Newcastle, Sellers Park, Glasner and Ed Howe, which manager will be sacked in the Premier League? First of all, I do not think Oliver Glasner is going to be sacked unless he chooses to step down. I do not think he's going to be sacked. He still has, 2 months or 3 left to his current contract. And he's since informed the club he will be leaving at the end of the season. So why sack him anyway? It's not like Crystal Palace are facing relegation. That's not the case. When you look at Crystal Palace, they're in a very healthy position. It may not be the most ideal, but in 14th place with 39 points, that's fair enough. Can they win still a couple of more games? I think they will win something and move on to 40 something. Because where they are in 14th place, I think they finished 12th last season? Was it 12th or 10th? They finished 12th with 53 points. Now, I don't know whether they'll be able to make 53 points. If they work upon it and win majority of their games, they could, because 7 games left to play. No, they have 8 games left to play. That's 24 points. 24 plus their sort of 39 is what? Let's do the math. 40 plus 23 would take them to 63 points. So really, really encouraging. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, when it comes to Ed Howe, similarly, Newcastle is going to have to grind it out until the end of the season. And we'll just have to wait and see. Ah, okay. Hi, Milton. Good morning. Um, Good to have you join us. Okay. So, unfortunately, you do join us when we've gone through most of the news. We've talked about Arsenal's injury updates in terms of the timelines that have been given. Good morning to you, sir, as well. In terms of the timelines that have been given, we've talked about Ghana's national team head coach that was sacked in the aftermath of their 2-1 loss to German. We've talked about the World Cup playoff finals. We've talked about other things. As you joined us, I think we talked about East Africa's preparedness for to host the World Cup. You know, so when it comes to Newcastle, Raymond, if he does resign now, well and good. If he's waiting to be forced out of the exit, he's not too big to fit through it. So they'll make whatever decision they'll make to have him gone. So yeah, I hope Pedri is not here today. Why? Pedri has not been part of the last couple of morning broadcasts, by the way. He has school, so sometimes he's taken away by school or the responsibilities of school and things like that. So yeah, but he's not here at the moment. Yeah, he's the one that requested that we talk about the World Cup finals. But speaking of the World Cup finals, the one thing that had slipped my mind is giving you my predictions. Now, Bosnia and Herzegovina versus Italy. I'd go with Italy to win it 2-1. Czech Republic versus Denmark. I'm going with Denmark to win and advance. Kosovo versus Turkey. I think Turkey would want to grind it out. Nonetheless, Kosovo are a very, very strong opponent. Then Sweden versus Poland. Now, that's quite the mix because those boys from the Scandinavian region are not easy, are not really, really easy, so anything can happen. But why should they anyway? So that's our for today at a quarter past and 9, sorry, at 45 minutes past 9 p.m. Then tomorrow, or which will be Tuesday, leading into Wednesday, the game between DRC Congo and Jamaica. I'd want to fans DRC Congo to get the better of Jamaica. Roberto Di Zabi to sort of mastermind a grind out of a result, maybe 1-1, 0-0, or 1-0 in normal time. Of course, if it's that sort of score, right, or the equivalent of 1-1 or 0-0, then it goes into extra time, and who knows what happens. Then Iraq versus Bolivia, I think I'm more inclined towards Bolivia to go through. Raymond says, hi, Italy, Denmark, Kosovo, Sweden. I go for Sweden to win. Raymond has gone for Sweden to win against Poland. He's gone for Denmark to get the better of Czech Republic. And then he's gone for Kosovo as well. How about, okay, you went for Italy, you went for Denmark, you went for Kosovo and Poland. Those are his predictions. He doesn't think that he doesn't think that Poland will make it. He doesn't think that Turkey will be able to make it, but they're just predictions. Do not bet your arm on them on regards to who will go through and who wouldn't. But yeah, the objective, I think, is simple. The question is, do Italy have the right manager to guide them through that process? I know Gattuso has won a couple of games. I do not know what his playing philosophy or style is, or he just goes about it the way any good manager goes about the game. So that's where it is slicing at, Okay, what else have we not talked about? I think we've exhausted the majority of all the topics that we had set out to talk about. We've talked about the daylight offside rule that is being introduced. Okay, briefly, this is what England boss Thomas Tuchel had to say about Declan Rice. He said Rice Saka had a medical assessment. They wanted desperately to play to get the narrative straight, but it made no sense to take this risk. If it had been the last game of the season, we would maybe have taken them and tried everything. They were both clearly in discomfort when we did the medical assessment. It made absolutely no sense that they stayed. Then he goes on to say with Noni Madueke, the pictures were slightly better than how he's feeling. So you can see when it comes to Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice, he's telling you that they did their tests, and you're saying Milton is saying not too sure about Thomas Tuchel. The one thing you all not remember is not too long ago, Thomas Tuchel was a club manager, so he knows what is at stake for clubs at the business end of the season. He knows that. But this is what I was explaining earlier. Because while a lot of people seem to think this has been done to favor the Arsenal, the one thing is that you're ignoring is that this could also be to favor those respective national teams. Let's say these players have these minor knocks and niggles and stuff like that, and then you go ahead and play them. Then they exacerbate that one and risk losing them even for the World Cup itself. Not a chance, you know. A player can get injured at any one point of time. That's true. Be it back at Arsenal, be it with the England national team, be it by themselves, doing some training work by themselves, they can get injured. That's true. But if you're England, you'd want to deleverage yourself from causing Arsenal injury, but more so, even yourself. Because if, let's say, Declan Rice were to get injured today for a period of 2 to 3 months, where does that leave him with the England national team? So not much or not very, very big, you know? Anyways, guys, it's been 1 hour and 2 minutes. Allow me call it a morning. Thank you so much, Milton. Thank you so much, Raymond. Thank you so much, Yuna, and Raymond Kangumba, and every single one of you that has managed to be part of this broadcast. Milton says true, injuries can happen at any time. Exactly. But basically what Thomas Tuchel is saying, if they're going to suffer an injury, it's not going to be on our hands, because God knows we need those players, you know, and those players too know that their respective clubs need them. So yeah, that's the case. So allow me to leave it at that, and I wish you a blessed, wonderful rest of the day. It's been 1 hour and 3 minutes. So allow me move on to my next schedule, because it is coming. It is already time for the next schedule, you know. So yeah, have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.